Good afternoon for your fellow East Coasters, and good morning for everybody else. I'm in sales at BrightSign. I cover loosely defined New England and half of Canada. I'm also part of a group at BrightSign that caters specifically to our retail customers. These are retail kiosk customers, it was really part of that relationship that drove where we are today. As we look at a post-COVID environment, we have customers in our retail group that literally have tens of millions of dollars invested in retail displays that create an experience that would require, a customer to touch a button or touch a screen. They came to us several weeks ago and said, guys, where's BrightSign on this environment, this post-COVID environment, where the new norms will be sort of contact-free interactions. And, we went to work and work with our partners and our internal technical people and really developed what we think is a great solution for folks out there that doesn't require them to basically throw away everything that they've invested in relative to an interactive experience. And it also opened up a tremendous amount of opportunities for BrightSign to be used in an environment which could now benefit from some of the things that we developed here. So today we're going to talk about these four things. BrightLink is clearly the topic of the day. A derivative of that would be the Bright Menu application. And as you'll see here in a minute, every time we talk to folks, and we've probably talked to 20 of our key customers. And, one of the things I've noticed is every time we expose this capability to folks, new ideas and new applications come out of it. So we're really excited about getting this knowledge into your hands and letting you run with it, because honestly, the application for what we're about to talk about is really endless. We also want to talk about Bright Voice. I'm not sure if you folks are aware of it. We've had it for a while. I want to touch on that to make sure you understand the parameters, because obviously in this environment, voice interactivity is going to take on a heightened sense of interest by our customers, our end users out there. So I'm going to touch on that a little bit. I'm also going to touch on one of our partner applications, which is Blue Fox. We have lots of relationships out there in the world today, as you guys probably know, but they certainly have an application here in a post-COVID environment that has resonance. I'm going to be joined today with Ann, but I'm also going to have Jan Piros on the line with us. He is the man behind the curtain. He is our director of experience design. Jan's fingerprints are all over this thing, and it's really his efforts with the folks back in our technical facilities back in Los Gatos or in Cambridge, England, that have really brought to bear what we're gonna talk to you about. So you'll hear from Jan here in just a few minutes. So let's talk about BrightLink. What is BrightLink? Well, at the end of the day, it's a way to use your cell phone as the touchless engagement. So it doesn't necessarily replace a touchscreen or a button board, but for the folks who are out there in the world who have concerns about touching a button or a touchscreen, it's a way for those people to engage with this retail experience with very little drama and still participate in that experience. So simply put, a consumer would take their cell phone, scan a QR code, join a network, and then they would be presented with the web page emanating from the player, which would allow them to interact. Now, some of the cool things here is that the interaction could literally mimic what the consumer is seeing. So in other words, you could show them a button board, you could show them the actual experience that's on the touchscreen in front of them, or you could have a hybrid. And this is what I was talking about earlier, where, when the creative folks get their hands on this, God knows, how it's going to spin out. But just understand that what is presented on the phone can be in addition to or identical to the experience that the consumer would have had by just simply walking up to the device and not pulling out their phone. Of course, this assumes people are comfortable touching their phone, which we can only assume is the case, so they wouldn't have it in their front pocket. An extension of this application would be the menu. You know, I'm talking to you from Ohio, and I think today we open up. But you know, as restaurants particularly seem to be the focal point of all the media, you know, they're faced with unique problems, right? Whether it be capacity issues, separation issues, how do they treat their employees? You know, one of the other things that they're faced with is how do I, you know, I can't reuse a menu, right? Because the menu could potentially have had some of the virus on it. So in some cases it's mandated, other cases it's strongly suggested that they offer a brand new menu to every single client who walks in. So this is a great extension of BrightLink into something called Bright Menu. Now, you know, I've worked with BrightSign for, oh gosh, over 10 years now. And there's one thing I've learned about the restaurant community, and that is that they are some of the least technical people that I've run into. And at the same time, they run their businesses so tight that they don't have a lot of money to spend on digital. We think that, and you can follow up I'll mention this later in the conversation here about following up with your BrightSign sales rep. But, you know, we think we've got a method for a very unsophisticated customer for very little money to put their menu on this device. This again is a simple scan. The phone connects. As you'll see here in a minute, there's a couple of different ways to connect to the player. And then the patron can view the menu and order from his cell phone. To be clear here, there's no app, there's no internet. The person would again just simply jump on to what is become a web server, which is our player that has a Wi-Fi module added. So this would work for any existing installed Series 3 or Series 4 player that you have out there. Any one of the players from an LS to obviously an XT. All you would simply do is add a SWS 103, which is our Wi-Fi module, to that. There's forthcoming versions of our operating system we will make available to you. And at this point, you've got a functioning BrightLink or Bright Menu environment. You've got a bi-directional Wi-Fi device at this point. This technology is really based on proven existing technologies, you know, whether it be the fact that you can turn the player into a web server or you can turn it into a Wi-Fi access point. Jan, do you want to talk at all about some of the technologies that you sort of pieced together to make this happen?
Yeah, so can you hear me okay, Tom?
Sure can, buddy.
Yeah, so basically, if any of you have worked, and you probably have with BrightSign players, you know we have a large cornucopia of technology that you can incorporate into any kind of solution for the most part. The technology that we're using here, for instance, is obviously Wi-Fi as the access point, so we'd be able to set up a DNS and DHCP on our player, meaning that, as Tom had mentioned, you don't have to be on the internet with this player. This player can be standalone. You power it up, it starts to emanate the SSID to the area, and then as you sign into it, it uses our web server technology, which has been around for years, and that allows you to run a full-blown HTML experience on the player through the SSID, through the Wi-Fi. And as you can see in this graphic here, for instance, you have a telephone with Find Your Contact as an example. Now, they can go in there and pick these contacts, but at the same time, you can push to the sign. So you can actually go and control the sign, as Tom had mentioned earlier, which is on an independent branch, you could say. So I could send a message from the telephone to the sign to change the experience, all in sync. So the technology has been tried and tested. We use it quite a bit. Some of you will remember it as being a custom device web page from within BrightAuthor, and the Wi-Fi access point is something that comes with a plug-in. Does that make sense, Tom?
It sure does. Thanks for that detail. from a practical level, okay, you're talking about, using MSRP, you're talking about a $300 device, right? An LS with a Wi-Fi module, plunk down into a restaurant, and you've got yourself a wireless menu system. In the early summer, we're going to be able to have a device in the market that at about half that price, as long as the client doesn't require a screen. And in many cases, I don't really see the restaurant requiring a screen, because they're just going to plunk this thing down into the dining room, and they're operational. They just put up the QR codes and off it goes. To my comment earlier about, where this thing could go, whether it be, directories, menus, retail experiences, you name it. We talked to a mall owner about a week ago who owns, I don't know, 20 odd malls or something. And, they're looking at it for their directory. So, again, really excited about getting this technology out into the world. I'd like to go into a little bit of detail of what that experience is to engage. And, I've coined it, scan, join, and open your browser. This is where you would have the display running, or a placard that, if you want to engage into the experience, simply take a picture. Some people use the word scan. I'm not really sure. How this is going to play out with the consumers is, as I said earlier, this thing is happening real time, and what are the best practices and what are consumers going to relate to? We just don't know yet. So I like to say personally, consumers know how to take a picture. So you tell a person to take a picture, you can say scan, whatever resonates with your customer. That will pop on the screen. Would you like to join the network? Keep in mind, you see here, if you can see it anyway, it says SignNet. Jan, that can be customized. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So the project that we're going to hand out will be have user variables in it that you can actually change the name of the SSID. So you could be Bob's Burgers, and you can also change the DNS of the web page. For example, here, if you look on the top of the browser, it says 192.168. That could actually be Bob's Menu as the domain name. So that's all very, very flexible, all programmable within the Bright Author project. You can just make the settings there. We did have a question about, where does this QR code come from? This QR code is a SSID QR code from a open source Git place, and it's called qfi.org. So it's QIFI.org. You can go there and just type in your SSID and type in the password, and then you have the QR code generated for you right at that point. So
Right.
That was one of the questions. Another question was how many people can be signed on to this network? So if it is a one-way network, where in this case here, for instance, you have a browser showing a menu, this menu then can be opened up for, we haven't really found a limit for it. Certainly IP addresses would be a limit, but we have not found a limit, because this is a passive pull the menu and read the menu. As a side note, that menu there, we have a sample that we'll be delivering, is a Word document that you export as a PDF and then upload a PDF. So a restaurateur just has to know how to use Word if they want to make their own menu.
Yeah. So again, in a one-way environment, the number is effectively limitless. In a interactive retail kiosk environment, that we're showing here, it could be, it would be just one. But if you think about it, in reality, a consumer walking up to this device, they're the only person interacting with it. But, again, getting this into the creative folks' hands, maybe, if you have a multiple screen environment, you change the QR code such that there's only one person interacting in a two-way, but everybody else is just getting information about that particular product. So you could make it a one-way. The combinations are kind of exciting and endless, but generally speaking, in a two-way environment, it's a single user interface with one person. How you treat that person from a standpoint of when they fall off or when you reject them, all of that is variable. And as you'll see here at the end, it's really about working with your BrightSign sales reps to help you with some of that technical guidance. to find the right mix of features and benefits for your customer or your
Tom?
end user. Yeah,
Tom, there's just one question came up is, can I have my Ethernet RJ45 connector attached to a network while using the Wi-Fi module? And the answer is yes.
yes,
For
absolutely.
example, while I'm using mine, I can do a local file network publish while I'm emanating an SSID on a different DHCP server. So yes.
Yeah, that's a key feature. As you know, most of our retail experiences, are already networked for, data collection use case, and of course updating. So yeah, absolutely. We would encourage that. Certainly with the control cloud today, there's no reason why you wouldn't want to have a player connected to the internet. As most of you probably know, the control cloud is free. It comes with every single player and gives you a tremendous amount of resources there to maintain the health of that endpoint for your customers. So
Hey, Tom.
absolutely a feature. Go ahead, Jen.
So one thing too is another question came up, and it's I think it's on everybody's mind, is why can't I just use my website to host a QR code and the menu on the player? And that is absolutely possible. There's no question you can't do that. The answer is that if you want to have a situation where you roll the player into a restaurant that they don't know how to use a website, they don't know how to update a website QR code, they don't know any of the IT stuff to do with websites, or if they have a proxy to go through, if they don't have an Ethernet jack, all these different little crazy little network hitches and gotchas can come into play. This player here will boot up and host a menu without being connected. And also the phone will allow the restaurateur to put in an admin password and then upload the menu from their phone. So for example, if your artist texts you a graphic of the menu saying, here's your menu, they can just upload it from their phone to the box. So it's very straightforward. We're trying to make it as simple as possible that it comes into your dining room, you power it up, and then your SSID is working away, and you just sign in with your phone with the admin password, and then upload your menu. That's
Right.
the difference.
Yeah, I would say, a personal experience. How many times have you been into a restaurant where you asked to jump on their Wi-Fi either because you just want to, or there's no cell service in there, only to find out that the waiter doesn't know what the password is, or the damn thing is broken, right? So this is about rock solid, simplistic. I know I have this emanating. I don't care what's going on with my cable company or my network provider. It's working. Second, I don't have to deal with a guy who wrote my website to make sure that I get to the page that has simply just the menu. So this is all about simplicity and rock solid performance. Okay. So this is one method, which is the scan, join, and open the browser method. You also have the simple method where you could just inform the person, hey, join our Wi-Fi, and then it automatically opens. This is a similar experience to when you walk into a Marriott. Isn't that right, Jen?
Exactly, yes. It's the same idea. It's just one of these traditional ideas that if you don't want to use a QR code, you can just say, hey, join the burger menu.
Right.
Yeah.
And keep in mind what Jen said earlier. This SSID and information here can be very apparent to the person who looks at their sprocket, looks at their Wi-Fi connection, that, oh yeah, I need to go to this one. You can name it exactly what it whatever you want it to be.
So a couple of questions came up, Tom, that people are talking about daily specials and this sort of thing.
Yeah,
The
beauty.
interesting part is that if you use Bright Author and you use HTML, you can actually, it's unlimited what you can accomplish there. We don't necessarily have the tools in HTML to do that, but you can, if you already have the tools, you can certainly incorporate it into that menu admin page to put in price specials and that sort of thing. The other thing is that you can use this player without having to connect it to a screen. So it can be just a web server that's served over the Wi-Fi. But if a restaurant owner wants to, they can connect it to a screen and have the added functionality of a digital menu, in which case daily specials can be echoed onto that menu from the admin of the telephone.
And think about a diner, right? It's got 17 pages of menu items. There's no reason why you could not have multiple QR codes emanating from one player. So riddle me this, right? You have a placemat that shows, oh, here's the QR code for drinks, appetizers, meat courses, chicken courses, again, whatever the consumer really wants to see, you can get those multiple pages emanating from one player. Isn't that right, Jen?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the key thing is work with your work with your BrightSign person and get the technology that you need, because there's, as Tom said, it's generally unlimited what you can accomplish here. There was a question to Tom, is just as a side note here. Is this
Mhm.
working like a captive portal? Yes, it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Um, Now, this presentation, we're gonna move on to Bright Voice, and we're gonna talk about our partners at Blue Fox, and then there will be a general Q&A. So, Jan, I don't know, you're viewing the questions coming in, and you're seeing them as well. Is now a good point to move forward, or would you like me to stay with BrightLink and Bright Menu?
I think it's a good point. Jan answered a lot of the really relevant ones as we went along, and obviously you guys are going to be in touch after the fact to answer any remaining questions that we don't get through. So
Yeah,
and
there was one question with BSN and BSN.cloud. Can this be used with those systems? And the answer is yes.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about Bright Voice. You know, most of you folks probably know. I mean, we're dominant in a lot of verticals in digital signage, right? One of the largest verticals for us is in retail kiosk displays, and we work with a lot of brands. We look at a lot of retailers. We work with the kiosk folks, and we were asked to develop a voice engine that didn't require the internet to operate. And so we did that with Bright Voice. We introduced this about a little over a year now, I guess now. We've got, thousands of endpoints out there, in a retail environment running Bright Voice. So what is Bright Voice? Well, it's a natural voice processing system integrated onto our player. So it's edge. It's on the edge. It's doing all it needs to do calculation-wise without the requirement of the internet. You effectively create a walled garden. It's not like our favorite Alexa device where you can ask it anything. This would be a walled garden where there would be prompts on the screen where the consumer can walk up and ask a relevant question. And the system will not only respond, but it can affect change within that space. So if it's playing a video or turning on a light or opening a curtain, all of those things can be programmed into this system. We have this up and running for, Amazon, at Best Buy. We have it in all Verizon stores across the United States. You can create your own wake word. Right now, we have Alexa as a wake word. As far as deploying this with your customers, whether it be a museum or a mall, if somebody wanted to ask for, hey, where are the shoe stores? A couple of things to understand about a project like this, unlike everything else that we do. These projects require our assistance real time. So if you're going to talk about Bright Voice, and we encourage you to mention that to your customers, understand a couple of things. The project has a project fee that also has some time requirements to it. If the client wants their own wake or keyword, there's another fee associated with that. These fees for the project can be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, and a wake word or custom wake word could be anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000. And that wake word, by the way, can be a 4-month project for us to make. So while it's something you want to mention, understand that to engage in a voice operated environment, it is not a trivial task. But certainly one that can be accomplished. And again, for the right customer, it's the right solution. And it has proven itself in the marketplace at again, Best Buys or Verizon stores. And It is also for the folks who work in hospitals and hospital environments. It is HIPAA compliant because it doesn't require the internet. So even though this thing is listening to the commands after the wake word, all of it is being done locally, so that it does have some advantages for that market as well. I'm going to move on to the last piece here, and then we can come back around and talk about any questions that you might have regarding voice or link. As most of you are aware, we have a tremendous amount of partnerships out there, right? And we stay in our lane. We're very focused on the media player. So one of the partners that we work with is Blue Fox. And they have, I think, a unique application really for today's environment that works very nicely with our platform. And I think you've worked with these folks recently. And do you want to talk about this application?
Sure, I would be happy to. Yeah, so as Tom mentioned, Blue Fox is one of our many technology partners, and they've created an app called Blue Fox Count that runs on any of our Series 3 or Series 4 players. And what it does is it helps with social distancing in any confined location. Retail is an obvious solution, but it could be a gym as gyms open up and they can only let a certain number of people in at a time, or a doctor's waiting room, or really just any location that needs to promote social distancing as we start opening businesses again. It works by detecting the smartphones. So it's assuming every smartphone is a person, to measure the real-time occupancy rates within a certain area. And then it can trigger messaging on a screen, say at the front entrance of the location, to manage incoming traffic. So as the location's occupancy reaches 100%, for example, the screen would switch from a welcome, please come in message to we are at maximum capacity at the moment, please wait until it's safe to enter. So in addition to the messaging, it also, Blue Fox always has provided these great dashboards of information. And so there's a dashboard that's set to alert store managers when occupancy is high, so they can, in addition to just having the sign out front, they can be diligent in keeping capacity at a safe level.
Right, and they've made accommodations to their program, haven't they, to allow this at a lower cost, I think?
Yeah, it's a one-time cost, and there are all sorts of discounts based on quantity and things like that. So what I would recommend is if anyone's interested in this, go ahead and contact them at the email that you see here on the slide, brightsign@bluefox.io. And also just wanted to say before I'm done, yes, we will be providing this deck in even greater detail, actually, to everyone who's attended.
Yeah, thank you. So, what should you guys be doing, or gals be doing at this point? Okay. Well, from a sales perspective, I think you need to expose these concepts to your customers. And this is concepts that range, we've talked about retail displays, we've talked about menus, but whether it be, exhibit services, whether it be museums, whether it be curbside pickup, all of these can benefit from this ability for somebody to expose their phone to a QR code, enter information, or see information, or affect change on a retail experience or the system that they see in front of them. Expose this to your customers. Identify the real opportunities that come out of that. And then simply contact your sales rep at BrightSign. And then we will advise you on the technical requirements to do that. Again, as I mentioned several times on this call, this is all happening real time. We will provide you with a POC so that you can take that back into the consumer or your customer, and that they can see it real time. All you need to do is order an SW103, plug it into one of your players, contact your sales folks here at BrightSign. We'll get you operational with that so that you can start demonstrating this real time. And I got to tell you, I've been through this, as you can tell, over the last 3 weeks, about 100 times. And, that aha moment when it just works, is just fantastic. And again, getting it in front of your customers, getting it in front of your creative people and your technical people, God knows where you're going to apply this. It's just going to spin out all over the place, I believe, from here. What should you be expecting from us? We're we're literally beating the heck out of a new OS or firmware right now to make sure it meets our standards for reliability. You'll be seeing that in a production environment in about 2 weeks. That will have the plug-in and sample projects. So this is happening real time. Good communications with your BrightSign sales rep will keep you abreast of that. But, like it or not, you need to get this in front of people now because people are making decisions now. I'd love to say, hey, let's talk about this on June 15th or July 1 when everything is baked. We're very comfortable where we are because it is based on existing technologies, but it's about now. You need to get out in front of your customers now and start talking to them about this because, again, who knows where it's going to end up as far as what your customer might want to do with it. So, here's all of us. You folks hopefully know who your sales guy is or gal is, and you can always send a note to sales@brightsign.biz, and we will certainly ferret you to the right folks if you don't know. But that is what we wanted to talk to you about today, and I think, Ann, we've got some time for Q&A. Is that correct?
We do. We have lots of time for Q&A.
Awesome.
And I wanted to, let's see, gosh, it's rolling in so fast, I'm losing it, but
maybe
somebody
between
asked,
you and Jan can
right.
Failed it, and while the other one's asking the questions that you can start catching up with the incoming. But
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So people have been asking about videos and sample projects. We do have videos. There's a landing page on our website now. If you go to the homepage of brightsign.biz, you'll see a couple of different ways. Top right corner, there's a banner where you can get to that page. There's also a main area, and you'll see videos, and we will also have sample projects.
I think I have that
soon.
queued up here, and is this what you're talking about?
Let's see.
BrightLink overview.
Wow, look at that. That's not what it looks like, though. What I was talking about is this click for COVID-19 solutions in the top right corner there. That's one way to get to the landing page. If you click on that, Tom, they'll see what the landing page looks like.
Yep. Bear with me here, folks. It's sucking up a little bit of bandwidth in my Zoom meeting. There you go.
There's our nice landing page. Okay.
Is that good?
So we talked, yeah, that looks great. I think we've answered a lot of these early questions. Can you talk a bit more about how to create the web page content and how to set it up in BrightAuthor and how the interactivity works, especially when multiple people are trying to interact? Yeah,
why don't we have Jen fill that one?
Yeah, so within BrightAuthor and in BrightAuthor Connected, there is a device web page, custom device web page checkbox where you can click on the index HTML, and that index HTML that was created by your artist or by your team gets uploaded with all its assets, all its JavaScript and everything to the player. And then once you go to the DNS name of your web page, then it will display whatever HTML you created. BrightAuthor does not create HTML, but it does post it and start the web server up on the player.
Great. And here's another good one. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say that when we start to release some of these presentations that you'll be able to look at, it'll be a lot easier for everybody to understand what Jen's talking about by just looking at the presentation in BrightAuthor. Go ahead, Ann.
So if someone's at a kiosk using BrightLink, how do you prevent another person next to that user from taking over the kiosk?
Well, again, in an experience that is two-way, it would be a single person that would be doing it. So this is where you get into the creative piece. Like, for example, if you're walking up to a touchscreen and there's two monitors, let's say there's the touchpad and an existing screen, and it's like, hey, if you want to interact or engage with this experience, you can use your cell phone. So when the person hits the QR code, the player knows that something is connected to it, and you could then, if you choose, remove the QR code from the display, or replace it with a one-way QR code so that that consumer knows who came second, let's say, hey, somebody else is using this, but here's some useful information, or again, whatever it is that you want to do. So again, two-way environments, single person.
And you can also hand out one IP address in the settings. So once that IP address is taken, that's only the one that's available until the guy walks away or drops.
Right. Right.
Okay, here's one about Blue Fox. How does Blue Fox detect if someone is entering or leaving the business? I can answer that one. So Blue Fox uses proximity sensors to you set it up to the size of your location. I believe it's, I'm not going to quote actually the distance. They do have it on their webpage. But you set it up, you tell it what your maximum capacity is. You know, this is the size of my store, maximum capacity is 100. And so the sensor will detect any cell phone that is within that proximity.
Mm-hmm.
And then
There is a question about if you have an existing touchscreen based project, what additional stuff do they have to do within BrightAuthor to get BrightLink to work? So obviously you have to have a Wi-Fi card. And that Wi-Fi, just so you know, is a single-use Wi-Fi. So you cannot be connected to the internet with that Wi-Fi at the same time as using it as a portal. You have to pick and choose which one you want to use. So in which case then your touchscreen application in BrightAuthor, you would just have a device web page uploaded, and then you add the plugins that we provide that start up the access point automatically. There will be variables in your presentation that will come up, which will allow you to set your DNS name, your SSID name, your IP addresses, all that stuff's within BrightAuthor. So you just have to fill that out and then publish to the player, and then you're off like Flynn.
here's an interesting question. Does the web server / Wi-Fi module solution, so BrightLink, work with CMS partners?
Yeah.
And go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, Jan, I know you've worked with a few different folks. I mean, it may be something that they have to farm out, but they certainly know about our web server technology. Is that right, Jan?
Yeah, so all of the technology that we have, I don't know if everybody's visited. If you go to docs.brightsign.biz, there's some extremely comprehensive documentation there that allow you to spin up custom solutions on the player within your CMS system. So for instance, if you want to spin up a server at a certain port, we have sample code that does that. CMS partners use that code quite extensively, and then you would just upload a page to that player to echo off that port that you've set up. But yes, it's you can do all kinds of things. You can skin the cat a million different ways, except for those cat lovers. It could be a dog.
I mean, in an ideal world, you know, we would have contacted every one of the, God, I don't even know how many CMSs now we're partnered with, but, you know, we would have contacted every single one of them to give them the heads up on this. And we have, in many cases, done that. But, you know, this is capabilities that are available to them. They're aware of them previously, because again, we just connected the dots here. So whether they have it today or they'll have it tomorrow, I am sure if you contact them, they'll be able to give you a response, if not immediate access to this functionality.
All right.
What else are we hearing?
Can you create a landing page on Bright Menu before the actual menu, like a welcome screen? Like, can you do welcome and then the menu?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, guys, you're putting on a full-blown web page, right, or website. So whatever you want that experience to be. So to your point, could it be welcome to Joe's Diner, and then they choose the drink menu, the food menu, the appetizer menu? Absolutely. You know, it really comes down to how sophisticated you want to make it, because you're running a full-blown website on that player. Is that right, Jen?
Yes, that's absolutely right, Tom. Exactly. So you could have a little welcome screen with animation, CSS animation banging along there, and then somebody touches it and it goes to a menu. Absolutely. So it's a full-on website that doesn't need the internet. So it basically plays right off the player. As a side note, you could use that as a web host if you wanted to, a very inexpensive web host in your network.
Yeah. True.
Okay, more questions about pricing of Bright Voice. And
Sure.
Is it based on store or player, and what are the total costs?
Yeah, so you know, besides the program costs, right, which are going to vary, 5 to 10 to get the project created. If they want a keyword, 20 to 30,000 bucks, right? Those are the prices for that. There's no markup in that. So be careful with those numbers. As far as the player is concerned, there's a $75 MSRP. Bright Voice license that it gets applied to a player. So every player requires a $75 license there's margin in that number. You also have to connect a microphone. Now, the microphone is very important. If you can imagine, the microphone that comes with your Alexa is very different than the one that was going to work in a retail environment or a noisy direct view environment. So we are very tight on that microphone. As I speak to you today, we're not in the microphone business. That may change going forward, but there's an associated cost with a microphone that also has to be calculated in. And I would say, as far as talking to your clients, or, somewhere between $30 and $75 for a proper microphone. Now that microphone may be just a raw microphone, so there may be a cost associated with putting that into an acceptable enclosure. So, we can work through all of those things, but generally speaking, running from the top again, 5 to 10 on the program, 20 to 30 on a keyword if you need it. Okay, $75 license fee, and then you've got a microphone somewhere between $30 and $75 to add, and at that point, your customer's operational.
So there's a few people asking about LS players. Are they capable of doing the BrightLink stuff?
Absolutely.
I'm using an LS3 for my test rig, and it's just fine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you look out there, guys, in the competitive market, there are people selling systems that are similar specifically to restaurants, right? However, those things are license based, so it's like, $150 to $200, and you got to pay for it every year. The actual setup of it is you got to have the internet, right? And you got to have all of this craziness, which I cannot emphasize enough. I've been through every vertical that this industry offers, and there's no question in my mind that restaurants are unique from a standpoint of their lack of technical expertise, particularly when you get down to the local restaurant folks. Even at scale, these restaurants are a nightmare. And also the cost, right? So yeah, $250 LS, $50 module, $300. They do need your help. They do need somebody to potentially create a menu, although there's a method that, again, when you follow up with your BrightSign sales folks, that we can show you where they could literally take a picture of their menu and they're going. But again, in the early summer, we're going to have effectively what was an audio only player for some of our retail customers that could be brought to bear in this environment. If you think about it, many restaurants do not have monitors. They don't want a monitor. So if you don't need a monitor and you just want this web thing emanating in your dining room, you're talking about half that price is what our targets are for. So you're looking at, $150 range to plunk this thing down and be operational. So stay tuned for that. Again, your BrightSign sales folks will be able to advise you when that product's going to be showing up. But if you want to sell it today, sell the LS with a WS103.
One of the questions that came up, Tom, when you had showed earlier the menu on the phone, they wanted to know, can you use PDF or PowerPoint, that sort of thing, in the presentation? The presentation that you were showing on the phone there is actually a PDF. So the admin portal on the phone, when the restaurant owner clicks the admin and signs in, they can upload from their phone to the menu. They don't have to go onto the web or anything, just upload from their phone to the menu. So one example is that maybe my cousin makes my menus in Word. They just have to format it. We'll give you a Word document that will show you how to format for a PDF. You basically type in all your items and put in your graphics and all that stuff in your Word document, and then publish to PDF, and then email it or text it to your uncle who owns the restaurant, and then he uploads it to the admin page, to the site, and it starts to play. So it's very good in that sense to be able to just use standard tools that are not really sophisticated. A PDF in Word it's not a difficult thing to do. PowerPoint you can also export to PDF. You can also use PNG files, JPEG files. Obviously, it has to be formatted so it's coherent. You have to have it like a aspect ratio of a telephone or something you can scroll through. Whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. But you could even take a picture. We will have some documentation on how you can take a picture of your existing menu, your physical menu, take a picture, and then upload that as the web page. Yeah. So try to make it as simple as possible.
Right. Absolutely. And we've tried to make it as the least common denominator to pull this thing off. And again, think about this for curbside pickup. Think about this for the small mom and pop that could be simply be a monitor inside the building. Consumer comes in, enters their name, car color, if you will. They know that Betty in a blue car is ready for pickup. Or again, it's endless what you want to do with the information that's presented from the web server. And do you see anything else out there?
I see lots of questions about Blue Fox, but I would just really recommend people email brightsign@bluefox.io for those answers. They'll be able to answer them much better than I can.
Yeah.
And then one question about when will the special firmware be available?
Well, let's go to the man behind the green curtain there, Jan. What are your feelings?
We're looking at 2 weeks, 2 weeks to have everything sort of completed and handed out. Certainly, Anne will have videos of how things work and stuff, and at that point we'll have projects and all that sort of stuff that you can fool with. But yeah,
Right.
We're looking at 2 weeks.
Right. And again, work with your BrightSign salespeople. If you guys identify something that is important to you within this 2-week period, we're going to be able to get you some things that you can start to demonstrate to your customer. Look, there's only 100-odd people in BrightSign, so please understand if we get maxed out here, but for the right opportunity, we can definitely get you something that is operational for you within this 2-week period, as we wait for Jan to do his magic and develop a production version of the software required to do this, firmware, I should say.
All right.
And I don't know what those questions were about Blue Fox, but the phone, even if the phone is I believe he's using even if the phone's Wi-Fi is off, it still sniffs out the phone. It's a pretty rock solid way for the system to identify that a phone is in the building. And again, this won't be an absolute number. This will be a general number, to your point earlier. And if mom walks in with 3 kids and the other kids don't have the phone, it's only going to count one person. This is about a general indication of how many people are in your facility, not an absolute number.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone also asked about a smartphone and smartwatch. Does it count them twice? Not exactly sure about that, but Blue Fox would be able to
again,
these
are, this isn't about, avoiding a ticket from the local municipality. This is about, hey, generally speaking, how can I, at a low cost, identify when my facility is getting backed up? And that's what the system is about. It's not about avoiding a ticket.
And then I think we can end by just saying there are lots of other really specific questions in here. And as Tom mentioned earlier, just contact your sales rep. If you don't know who your sales rep is, contact sales@brightsign.biz, and we'll have a personal conversation with you.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right, fantastic. Well, thanks everybody for taking some time today. I just from one salesperson to the rest of the sales folks out there, I've presented a lot of cool technology from BrightSign over the years. I've never seen anything like this. I know we're in a weird space, but having said that, the time is now to start talking to your customers about this. You're going to find some low-hanging fruit and some activity out there. And you're not burdening your customer with this multi-$1,000 investment. You're talking about a $50 Wi-Fi card and a little bit of your help, and they're operational. So time is now, and it's a great pitch. Okay.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining. We really appreciate your time.
Super. Thanks everybody.
Bye.